What's happening, family? How y'all doing today? How y'all doing? Make sure you wipe your feet as you come in the door. And for the ones that don't know, that's like, comment, and subscribe. Ring that bell icon and turn post notifications on to all. That way you will be notified every time we drop a video. And also follow me on Instagram at allfactsKingKO, all lowercase. If you need to speak, business ideals, anything like that, promotion, y'all know that type of stuff. Now, we got to chop it up today about my boy YNW Melly. As you know, some great news came out for his case overall. Him and YNW Portland. Even though just a few days ago, the fella got some bad news once again that he be denied bond.
Meanwhile, a judge denied bond to South Florida rapper YNW Melly. Defense attorneys for the rapper, whose real name is Jamal Demons, by the way, had asked for the judge to consider issuing Demons a bond, which would have given him the opportunity to get out of jail. The judge ruled that the state met its burden, that the presumption of guilty is great, and the fact that the first trial against Demons ended in a mistrial didn't influence the judge otherwise. Demons is charged with 2 counts of murder for the 2018 mutilations of 2 of his friends. His second trial is set to begin with jury selection on the 9th of October.
And yes, that was ugly. There's no denying that. But the thing is, YNW Melly got some great news, and he's most definitely about to get his revenge on this situation, because there was a motion that was filed today, and his lawyer, well, his ex-lawyer, Ron, he's going to go into full detail about this situation, so I don't have to really describe it. What I will tell y'all is that this will affect YNW Portland in a positive way as well. And it shows that there was a lot of corruption going on around this man's case. But his mother, Miss Jamie, she had a few things to say on there as well. She first says, "I'm ready for my son to come home." And then says, "My attorney, Robert Trachman, filed a motion to get my phone back. And Detective Moretti admitted in open court he did not have a BSO present and to return my phone." And what she's talking about right here is the fact that Detective Moretti took her phone without following proper procedure. He had no warrant to take her phone, so when it came up in court and the lawyer asked about it, he couldn't give it back, or he really didn't want to speak on it because he wasn't supposed to take it in the first place. Now, someone asked her, did Detective Moretti ever give her phone back? To which she responded, "Mr. Detective Moretti is just like every other law enforcement on the face of this earth. Scum, trash, garbage, a parasite, and still to this day, in 2023, we do not have a clue as to why they were invented." Nah, she didn't say that. Those was my words. But she did say this. "No, Bradley lied and said my phone was needed for a case. I have nothing to do with this case." And she's absolutely right. There was no reason for this man to take her phone. And it's absurd. A lot of corruption that was going on from Mr. Detective Moretti and the rest of those detectives, as y'all will find out in this video. Now, she also went on to let it be known that YNW Melly is still not allowed for any visitation, phone calls, stuff like that. So what law enforcement is trying to do with that is it's a little mind game tactic that they like to use. They're trying to freeze him out. There's 2 tactics in one. They're trying to freeze him out, get him to feel lonely, pull him away from his support system, his family, loved ones, girlfriend, all that stuff there, and get him to eventually succumb to that and admit guilt to something he's claiming he's not guilty of. And then on the other hand, they'll also put confidential informants around him to where, you know, he's talking to them and pretty much telling on himself, because you have to have some type of human interaction. So they're hoping, they're banking on the fact that he'll speak to one of them and pretty much tell something that has to do with this case. Now, the more important thing that she posted, the most important thing, was this motion right here that was pretty much announced today. Now, in this motion, I'm gonna allow the lawyer to break it down. Of course, he can break it down a lot better than I can. He took the bar, he went to legal school, all that good stuff there. And like I said, this will help YNW Portland as well. Now, YNW Portland did let it be known that if he get 1,000 comments, he will be dropping a song today. So y'all make sure y'all go show that man some love. And without further ado, let's get done with all the talking. Free that man Melly, and y'all let that man YNW Portland get up off that case.
YNW Melly's motion to dismiss that was filed about, it attaches some emails and really goes into detail. So let's do this. All right. This is a really interesting motion. Very well written. His new defense team, one of his lawyers is Jamie Benjamin, who I'm very good friends with. Great guy. Very good lawyer. And this is concerning the lead investigator in the case. His name's Detective Mark Moretti of the Miramar Police Department. And essentially, it's calling into question his veracity for truthfulness and the fact that the prosecutor knew about his veracity for truthfulness and his failure upon being truthful, yet didn't disclose it. So what is it all about? It's essentially about Detective Moretti was going to serve a warrant on Jamie King, and Jamie King is YNW Melly's mom, and his mom was getting her phone seized by via warrant. So for those of you who don't know, when a guy is from Miramar, like Detective Moretti, he needs to have some jurisdictional reason to serve the warrant outside of his jurisdiction. And essentially, in this case, he was serving it outside his jurisdiction. He needed BSO to be present when he served this warrant. BSO was not present when he served the warrant. And the allegations in this motion to dismiss are that when BSO showed up, Detective Moretti asked them to lie on his behalf and say that they were present during the service of this warrant. Now, what's interesting about the service of this warrant, Jamie King, who is Melly's mom, also made the accusation that Detective Moretti was very physically abusive to her when he was seizing her phone, essentially grabbed her phone from her when he had no legal right to do so because, like I said, he didn't have the right to serve that warrant. He could have held her there until BSO showed up with the warrant, but he did not do that. He actually served the warrant, and then, according to this motion, he then asked a BSO officer to lie about it. So a Brady violation. What is a Brady violation? A Brady violation is essentially when the state has information that was favorable to the defendant because it was either exculpatory or because it was impeaching. You're entitled to it. You have to give it to the defense. I have several cases where they didn't do that, and we have Brady hearings on it. And essentially, the judge then determines whether or not this was willful or inadvertent, if it was material, if there was prejudice to the defendant. There's a lot of, I call them prongs, everyone calls them prongs, to a Brady hearing. So the first is whether or not the evidence was favorable to the defendant because it was exculpatory or impeaching. The second is whether or not the state suppressed it willfully or inadvertently. That would go towards what the remedy would be. And then if it was material causing prejudice to the defendant. In this case, essentially they're saying that the state attorney, Christine Bradley, who I also know, maintained information that Detective Moretti lied and told a BSO officer to say he was there when he wasn't there. And that caused a issue because he was asking them to essentially create a false report. What's interesting here is there was an internal affairs, and it looks like the internal affairs was instituted sometime in August, and then August 30th, according to the motion, Ms. Bradley responded that the internal affairs has all the information in Miramar, and then a court date came around where Mr. Adelstein, who is Stuart Adelstein, the other counsel on the case, he was asked what's the best procedure in order to take a deposition of a state attorney who was present when the phone was seized. So there was no disclosure at that point about this internal affairs investigation. There was no disclosure about that he allegedly asked someone to lie for him. It was super super interesting, that first motion. They have another motion tomorrow, in terms of what's going on, and then a deposition on Friday of the state attorney who was present when Mr. Moretti, or Detective Moretti, was asking this BSO officer to allegedly lie on his behalf. So what's the most interesting of this motion? So the other deputy, the BSO deputy that was asked to lie allegedly was Deputy Gorell. And what's most interesting about this motion is there's a paragraph in here that says, in fact, it is believed the highest levels of the state attorney's office made determinations not to provide this information to the defense, and secondly, not to pursue the internal affairs investigation. This was an institutional policy of the state attorney's office, not just one prosecutor. That's pretty damning and not a good statement for the state attorney's office in regard to this case. And it goes further to say that the state intentionally withheld this information that would impeach Detective Moretti in order to gain a tactical advantage and to violate Mr. Demon's due process rights as guaranteed by both the 14th Amendment and the parallel provisions of the Florida Constitution. It goes on, because this withholding of evidence was not only institutional, meaning the whole state attorney's office, but deliberate prosecutorial misconduct, double jeopardy principles apply, and the case must be dismissed. And he cites two Supreme Court case that's on point. What's going to happen here, I'm not sure, but this is a pretty damning motion. It's pretty damning in terms of the allegations. I mean, there's paragraphs in here that say they were planning on allowing another trial to go by without revealing this information, only after the defense started to uncover what happened on the date between Detective Moretti, BSO deputies, and Jamie King in the presence of Assistant Attorney Michelle Boutros, that's the assistant attorney that was present, was the state forced to reveal what it had been hiding. So they make pretty bad allegations against the state attorneys of Broward County. In fact, these might be enough, if the motion to dismiss is not granted, this might be enough to disqualify the Broward State Attorney's Office as the prosecutors on the case. It's a pretty damning motion, and well written. I don't know how well received. They don't necessarily dismiss cases on Brady violations unless it's a significant violation, and the judge may feel that although this is impeachable of Mark Moretti, Detective Moretti, it might not rise to the level of dismissing the case, because how relevant it is and how material it is going to be a question. I think they meet most of the prongs here, but the question is going to become how relevant, how material is it that allegedly Detective Moretti asked another detective to lie on his behalf. I mean, it certainly is not a good thing for Detective Moretti or his career, nor is it a good thing if these allegations are true for the state attorney. But is it enough to say, okay, we're going to dismiss the entire case? I don't know. But I think that it definitely is going to add to a favorable ruling for the next trial. If it is not dismissed, I think it's going to add to a favorable ruling in terms of impeachment of the Detective Moretti. Again, I don't know where that's going to go, because that, coupled with witnesses that didn't want to appear, witnesses that say that that Miss Bradley forced them to appear or threatened to arrest them. I don't think this is going to play well. I don't see. This would be a very tough case as it stands, but this, coupled with the other issues that were in the case, I think it makes it even a more difficult case for the state. Again, anything can happen. It was 3-9, I think, last time. Whether or not it's going to be another hung jury, or a not guilty or a conviction. It's anyone's guess. I originally said that this was going to be a hung jury the first day of trial, when I heard the first words of evidence, and knowing the evidence, I thought this was going to be a hung jury. I don't know if you're ever going to get 12 people to agree on guilt on this case, because I think there's some serious issues. I think this adds to it. It's definitely not good for the prosecutor, and it's definitely not good for the prosecutor's office. This is a really damning issue that he's saying that it goes to the highest levels of the prosecutor's office. That's a tough one, especially where there's a lot of eyes on this prosecutor's office, where you have a brand new state attorney that just, I think he just won election a couple years ago, and he's up for re-election in 2024. So I don't think that this is a good, this is good for him. I don't think this is good for their office, and I think that it really highlights, some police misconduct. And I've come across a lot of police misconduct in the past couple weeks myself, where we had one officer who clearly lied under oath. I would love to say that I alleged that he lied under oath, but there's no alleging. He clearly lied under oath, where he was watching a Instagram live, and the picture was flipped, so it showed my client with what he was looking through his binoculars, and he saw my client with a gun in his left hand. He was 100% actually watching him on Instagram live, but he did not want to disclose that for, I don't know, investigative reasons or whatever it was. But he essentially lied under oath. He committed perjury. And we've brought that to the attention of the state attorney, who knows that he committed perjury, because there's no other way around it that he did not commit perjury. Yet, nothing has happened as of yet, but we'll see how that works out for him. Let me see what questions we have here. What happens if you get 2 hung juries? They can keep going on hung juries. It doesn't matter if they have 1 hung jury, 2 hung juries, 3 hung juries. They can keep going if they want to. Usually they don't, but on murder cases, the likelihood is they'll keep trying it. Let me see. No, an IA investigation would not become part of this investigation. It's actually a separate issue. Matter of fact finder, not a matter of law. That's not correct. This is a matter of law. Whether or not there's a Brady violation is not for the fact finder. That's for the judge to determine whether or not the prongs have been met. It's like I said, this is a interesting, definitely an interesting issue that has arisen. I don't know if, like I said before, I don't know if it's going to be a motion to dismiss, but this motion is a serious motion. If the allegations are true, and there was a real intentional hiding of this lie, alleged lie by Detective Moretti, that's going to be a serious issue for the judge to consider. Again, whether or not it's material is going to be the question. Is it something that's material enough to the case where if this was disclosed and they brought this up on cross-examination to impeach Detective Moretti, whether or not that would have made a difference? That's going to be the question. So it's whether or not it was material, I think, is going to be the prong that the judge is going to have to decide on. Do you think this case should still be a death penalty case? I don't think that the case was a death penalty case to begin with. Usually the state files death penalty cases because they try and get better juries on these cases, and a death qualified jury is usually a very right-leaning jury, and that's why they do it. It's to gain a tactical advantage. It's not necessarily always because it's a death penalty case. In this case, they don't even know the facts and circumstances of what happened, when it happened. They don't have witnesses to what happened. So to say that this is a death penalty case, I think was a stretch to begin with. My thoughts on bail being denied. I think that you could have formulated a bail for Melly that would have been would have assured his presence at trial and also protected society. I think you could put him on electronic monitor and house arrest. I think that's I don't see him making a run for it or having the type of wherewithal to make a run for it or to say that he's a danger to society at large. Again, if this is true, it would be two individuals that he had a relationship with. It's not showing that he would have a danger to society at large. So I don't think that I think that he should have been granted a monetary bond and a house arrest, to be quite honest with you. I'm looking at cases from other states. When I say that, there was a case in California where a judge shot his wife in the head point blank and then called the clerk of courts and said that he wouldn't be in the next day because he just blew his wife's brains out, and they gave him a bond. So I don't, other states give bonds on worse cases in terms of formulating something that will assure his appearance. So I think that he should be. Do I think the deposition of Boutros will be truthful? Yes, I believe that it will be. I've known several state attorneys to be above board and truthful in all aspects of knowing them, and I think that she is certainly one of them that I would put in that category. Yeah, it was a relatively low bond for the judge in California. I think it was, it wasn't that low. I think it was $1 million, to be honest with you. So I didn't think it was that low. Let's see. How many new lawyers are on the case? I think it's just Jamie Benjamin who took over the case. I think he's the only new lawyer. I think Stuart Adelson is still on the case, who's an excellent lawyer as well. He's one of when you have a group of maybe 5 or 10 OGs in Fort Lauderdale. Jamie Benjamin is one of the OGs. He's a good dude. Do I think the new trial won't happen this year? I don't. I think that it will. I think that they're going to start picking a jury October 9th. That's what I think. Defense attorney, but I think that they're going to push this forward. They're not going to take a defense continuance. I think that they know there's substantial issues here, and if anything, this would be a state charged continuance if it would be a continuance. But we'll see. I don't think that it's going to be a continuance. What do I think about the Miami-Dade officer who threatened to kill the guy and drove off in the truck? Actually, they came to my office today, and we just signed up. We just signed him up to investigate and see exactly what's going on with the officer who pulled a gun on him and threatened to kill him. So we'll know more. We will know more about that in the next couple weeks. Can it affect YNW Bortland's case? It could. It could affect his case, depending on what the judge says. In this case, again, he's not as prejudiced because he has this information now that he can use at trial. But certainly there is some prejudice there. But I think that it would more affect Melly's case than it would Bortland's case. I don't think it's going to be delayed, but you never know. Like I said, if it's delayed, it would be because of the state, not because of the defense. Do I think the state will try to attempt to split up? I don't know what the YNW group is, so I don't know if that I don't know how to answer that. Yes, people who get locked up, it's always a shame that, when they can't see their family by Zoom or by phone call, that's just a way to get a plea out of someone or to try and put them in a position where they say something on the phone that isn't in their best interest. I don't know everything about Bortland's case, but I think if Melly's case is a stretch, I think Bortland's case is a larger stretch. So that's kind of everything that's going on this case. I think it's, like I said, I think it's super interesting. I think it's going to be, there's going to be a lot going on. I know there's a motion tomorrow. I think that they have, let me see, file a notice. This is the Brady notice that was filed was on September 23rd, but I think they're going to have to amend this. It's not really a Brady motion that really says what's going on within that within the motion that they filed, the motion to dismiss. But the Brady motion that was filed on September 23rd from the state attorney's office essentially says that also present was Robert Trackman, who was at the time Jamie King's counsel, and BSO Sergeant Jason Hendrick, who I happen to know Jason as well, who's a good dude. During the statement, Sergeant Hendrick left the room. Shortly thereafter the statement, while no BSO deputy was present, Detective Moretti executed a search warrant on Demon King's phone. Detective Moretti seized said phone. Miss King and Mr. Trackman then left the room. Shortly thereafter, BSO Deputy Adam Gorell arrived at the conference room, and according to the state attorney who was present, it was at this time that Detective Mark Moretti stated to BSO Deputy Gorell in front of the assistant state attorney that Deputy Gorell should say that Deputy Gorell was present when Detective Moretti executed the search warrant seizing Miss King's phone. According to the information from the ASA that was present, Deputy Gorell nor any other BSO deputy was not present in the conference room. The undersigned, meaning Miss Bradley, spoke to Detective Moretti in regards to this incident, and Detective Moretti said he asked Deputy Gorell if Deputy Gorell was there when the phone was seized. Deputy Gorell responded something to the effect of, "I can be if you needed me to be." So this is either Detective Moretti was lying about that Detective Moretti asked him to be there, or Deputy Gorell was lying when he said, he responded something to the effect of, "I can be if you needed me to be," which both are not good. So that is in the motion that was filed, the Brady notice that was filed from the state on September 23rd. And then there was a defense motion in limine that was filed as well today, a couple hours ago. And that motion in limine for Mr. Demons states that that the defense believes that a state will argue and attempt to present witnesses that there was an agreement between Jamel and Anthony Williams to split or share all of the money Mr. Demons made through his musical pursuits. It's just like they're just trying anything at this point. So they know they have no motive. So essentially this motion in limine is saying, like, they're just coming up with anything they can to show motive of why Mr. Demons would kill his two best friends that were with him since he was little and grew up with him. So the issue now is that the state is trying anything they can. They know there's no motive here, and they know that motive is not a element to the crime, but they're trying anything they can to present that motive. There's several motions to suppress that are filed, and we will discuss those going forward, because those are really, really interesting, these motions to suppress. I love this motion to dismiss because I think it goes kind of it kind of airs out the laundry that's been going on. And let me see here. I think there's a court date tomorrow for, let's see. It's just a calendar call for tomorrow. And that is at 9 a.m. In front of Judge Murphy. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on tomorrow, because there's a lot of motions that have been filed that were never filed prior to this. A lot of motions in limine that were filed. And like I said, I really think that this defense team led by Mr. Benjamin, Jamie Benjamin, is really now digging in and filing the motions that probably should have been filed originally. A lot of motions to suppress statements, a lot of motions to in limine on social media, and I think it will change the landscape of this case significantly. So, like I said, doing a nice job. I think that these motions are super interesting. There's a couple people that asked me some questions. What happens if it's another mistrial? I think they're going to retry it. You think any lawsuits could be going to the state if found innocent? No, they have statutory immunity, so I don't think that's going to happen. So that's all that's going on today. I will go have a Instagram live tomorrow to talk more about these motions to suppress and also about this calendar call tomorrow.